Okay, my friend, I know you weren't in this weekend, but I'm sitting at home watching the pictures come in. It was a Liverpool party, mate. It was a party for the ages. It was a party making up for COVID and the pandemic and not being able to really celebrate that first Premier League title under Jurgen Klopp as they should. But there were special scenes today. It was a special day for this football club, Rob, when you think historically where it's come from, what it's done to get that 20th top flight title to equal that of Manchester United. Kind of sum up what you saw of the day, and then we'll get into a bit more detail about the game and maybe look towards where the future might be with Arne Slot and this team.
Yeah, the game kind of comes secondary, Rob, doesn't it, to what we saw afterwards, really. And I think we know what sort of club Liverpool Football Club is. We know that they won a title 5 years ago, but it was during COVID, and it must have been incredibly frustrating for those fans not to celebrate with the team. So this was always going to be a huge celebration. And, you know, the scenes at the end, I mean, there were so many great scenes, from the tears of Alisson to the manager and the players dancing on the pitch afterwards, Rob. It was a dancing celebration like we've never seen before. Just the reaction from the cop, I think probably my favourite moment, the most powerful moment. I mean, by the way, you know, a lover of football like we are, you get a lump in your throat when you see that kind of stuff. I mean, that's kind of stuff that you dream of as a kid. Like we're all, you know, when we're all kids and we play the game and we start watching football in England when you're a young kid watching the telly and the big games and all that, you dream about things like this. This is things that the dreams are made of. And my favourite bit is when Virgil van Dijk pulled everybody in a big old line, the whole club. And by the way, I love it. There's people that get hugged, Rob, that nobody's got any idea they are. You know, like females, males, like you've never seen before. That's the staff. That's the background. That's probably the kit lady. That's probably the cafeteria staff or the receptionist at the front desk. The whole club was there, and to line up and get You'll Never Walk Alone in front of the cop, I thought that was probably the most special moment of those celebrations that were all tremendous. The lap of honour. It is a special football club, and that doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean that that we're a fan of any of the clubs in the Premier League.
More biased than some people might think.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, some people think, you know, that they always think you're biased with all that against their club, but just that way that that club does it, the celebrations and the atmosphere that's in there, it was a very special moment. We can get into the details of star players, the manager, and everything else, but just the appreciation of the football club. And I think it was maybe the second thing that Arne Slot said in his interview was about the whole club, the whole staff. The Jurgen Klopp kind of mention and song at the beginning was great as well, to give to tip of the hat to Jurgen Klopp and what he did to put this team together. But just the humble nature of celebrations were outstanding to me.
You know, honestly, it was one of those, Rob, where you're wishing somehow you could be pitch side. I was envious of the boys who we had, John Champion, Graham Mustoe and Steve Warner, who did a brilliant job before the game, setting the scene, after the game, great interviews. You know, I want to talk about the Mo Salah too, that I thought was fascinating. Just that the people, I think I said, the Alisson moment, the director, whoever was working, got the shot spot on, took one shot of Alisson, who's in tears, who's a very experienced goalkeeper who, you know, in a few years' time might not be at the football club, but what it meant to him, Rob. And then there was a great shot of a gentleman that they just caught at the time where there was a tear in his eye, he was looking up, he was screaming Liverpool, and it was just like, wow, you know, as players, you put everything in and you give them, but the fans do the same, Rob, for 38 games. They travel everywhere. Go through the weather, you know, whether it's Ipswich who've just come up or you play Manchester City, it's all the same sort of preparation for them. And it just sort of brought it all together for me, that, you know, and that's what winning a title means. And, you know, unfortunately for us, we were never able to win titles. But I saw a number of players today using mobile phones, none more so than Mo Salah. The Salah selfie is now the thing, trending number one on social media. But there was an interesting, Rob, where I noticed a lot of players with phones, and part of me thought, well done. Because we both played at times where you had your big days and your big moments, and they're just memories. There's no real, I mean, you know, of course you have TV footage now, but you don't get that inside, that emotion, those things. And players now can do that, Rob, and can keep that and can show that. And I was sort of, I was pleased that I saw players who were going to take this in, and maybe some will be moved on to other teams in times gone by. And there might be a time you just go back and play that some of those last scenes, those You'll Never Walk Alone, the Arne Slot, the celebrating together, the whole group of people, you say, staff, ancillary staff, data analysts, scientists, masseurs, all who are part of the team of Liverpool Football Club when it being top of the table. I thought it was an outstanding day, and Liverpool did it proud.
They did, Rob, and that's 20 top flight titles. And obviously now we can say that they're the most successful team in English football history.
Yeah.
20 titles, domestic titles, league titles, same as Man United, but of course they've won more European trophies, so that makes them the most successful. A friend of mine, Liverpool fan, said they are the greatest club in England, which I was, maybe a chat for another day, mate, but like the greatest club, the most successful, but can you say they're the greatest?
What does that entail?
Does that bring in like history and global appeal? And anyway, we ain't got time to get into that right now.
That's another day.
But what is data and fact is they are the most successful team in English football. And I'll tell you what was also a powerful shot for me, Rob, and not so much emotion, but there was a quite a lengthy conversation that the director picked up on again between Arne Slot and Richard Hughes. Richard Hughes being the director of football, and he's the guy that's going to think about, he's the guy that negotiated the contracts for the two players of the three that are staying so far. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, as Stephen Warnock said, Rob, before the game, in some of his words, he's not 100% sure he's going to leave. And I'm kind of with him. It's obviously a high percentage, but if things are not kind of finalised to what Trent Alexander-Arnold wants, I can't imagine it being a difficult decision. So, you know what?
I'll stay.
This is So, I mean, I think we all know that that's where our money would be going, but it's not to say it's a slam dunk done deal just yet. But anyway, it's Richard Hughes. They're going to have money now, Rob. They didn't spend hardly anything last season. It was the same team. They've got money in the bank. They can look to strengthen the 11 instead of replacing two or three very expensive parts. And I just think it could be the start of something quite big at this club. There's a good age about it. The midfield is new, dynamic. Interesting, Arne Slot said afterwards that a team as often, or new players, is better in their second season. And I thought that was interesting, because they often are. Let me throw it back to you, Robin, just in terms of how he's done it. In that comment, he's kind of saying that Jurgen Klopp might have found a way to win the title this year with that new midfield in its second season. What's the important difference that's brought the title to Arne Slot, and how has he changed Liverpool a little bit?
So it's a great question, and I'm going to go straight to, and I don't know if you saw, after Mo Salah came to the desk, and it was that noisy in the atmosphere, and the mic wasn't picking up all, but we got a good sense of what he was saying. I thought the boys did a great job of asking the right kind of questions, trying to draw things from him. And Mo's brilliant, by the way. Considering he's a star man in that team, he's a legend in the Premier League, Hall of Famer for sure. He's so humble and giving, and almost feels like he's excited to be part of our broadcast. And there was something that he said, Rob. So he said, when Arne Slot came in, because I think it was Steve Warnock, said, tell us a bit of the difference between Klopp and Slot. And he said, different personalities, different way they go about things. But he talked about Arne Slot, and he said that Arne Slot initially wanted him to play a little bit deeper, a bit closer to Trent, to maybe protect Trent a little bit. And, everybody was talking about Trent can't defend and he gets exposed. And it was interesting that Mo said, so I listened, and then the day after he went back to Arne Slot and said, I can do that, but my numbers will be down. You won't be getting the goals from me. So are you okay? And it was a bit like Arne Slot said, oh, okay. So Mo Salah said he went higher. They worked a way of finding, to get some security.
Which they did before a little bit. They did before a little bit. With Jordan Henderson used to go across there, didn't he, to help a little bit.
A few games this time, we've seen Gravenberch going out there to that right-hand side just to give a bit of protection. When we've watched the team, we said, Gravenberch taking a bit of an interesting spot out there. Now, whether that's at time, depending on the threat of the opposition. But the bigger thing for me, Rob, more than the detail and, the X's and O's and where they play, was the relationship and the player management between Arne Slot and Mo Salah. I think there was some cracks starting to appear with Jurgen Klopp. I think Jurgen Klopp's personality, and as brilliant a coach, as big a personality, as great a ambassador for the Premier League. I imagine when he's been around you for 7-8 years, Rob, I can imagine it at some point getting a bit jarring. And I kind of feel like a new voice, a different way of doing things. There's a lot of talk about one-on-one conversations, group conversations, different way of doing things, different appreciation of the players. Whether it's just a change is a good thing sometimes and freshens you up. But I thought I took away from that, this Arne Slot guy is smart because he's given these some of the great players like Salah, okay, you're going to play high and now you got to get me those numbers. Well, he's certainly doing that. 28 and 18 goals and assists are pretty good.
I think it's an interesting point there, Rob, and I would sort of say that maybe his management style in terms of man-to-man management is softer, just a little softer. A little softer where I think Jurgen Klopp, he's so fired up and he's so determined and he's so strong-willed and maybe a little stubborn that he really wanted his way from all players. And maybe Arne Slot's kind of confident enough, mature enough to say, I hear you, Mo. I hear you. Let me look with this, because it's a very interesting point from Mo Salah, and it's something that other clubs and teams and coaches at all levels, by the way, should consider. Should consider. An ideal left winger in some ways is a guy that can get forward and score goals, and he gets all the way back and regularly helps his fullback. Mo Salah's basically being honest enough to say, that's really difficult, guys. And if you want me to do that, I'm not going to have the same energy in that final third when he gets the ball.
Absolutely.
And it's so true. But so many players just kind of get on with it. It's the way I've got to do things.
But then you get 8, 9, 10 goals, Rob, from them and the other end of the pitch, because you can't kind of do both things.
Difficult to do both things. So if you've got a special talent and there aren't many of them around that you can make a special allowance for, then maybe that's the best way for him to succeed, and then ultimately the team to succeed, to be a little softer in certain situations. There'll be times when people will try and take the mick and try and grab an inch and go for a mile or whatever. And then the manager sometimes has to be, more strict. But I kind of like that conversation as well. I did hear the interview, and I thought that's two experienced performers, and Mo Salah's an experienced pro. Say, listen, I can do that, but just so you know, and I think that's great, honest feedback from the player.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Rob, because obviously you start thinking about Arne Slot coming in. I can honestly say I heard no pundit. I read no journalist. I saw no evidence that anybody thought Liverpool could win this title. I didn't see one. I never saw them. I rarely saw them in top 2. Most people had them somewhere 3, 4 or 5, depending on how he starts. And, will he just football, and will he be able to make the transition, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Based on what we've seen, Rob, and what we know now, and that the title's been won, sort of give me, if you can, 1 or 2 things that has impressed you, set him apart. And listen, we don't know what's going on in all the training ground, but we get a sense of certain things. What's been the most impressive thing, Rob, that he's brought to this group of players who finished 3rd last season, 9 points behind Manchester City, I think they were, to be 15 points clear with 4 to go?
Before I get to that, just back on the start of the season and stuff, I think what we all thought, Rob, is like, we just don't. It's hard to tip Liverpool to win the title when a new guy's coming in, and like we're not quite sure how this is going to go. And most, a strong part of everybody's probably who's in the game, who analyzes the game, thought, well, it's kind of tough to follow the guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But what we did also realize, I mean, we weren't, like this Liverpool team was in the title race last season for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think people forget that. They fell away pretty badly at the end last
March, didn't they? Yeah.
Was it March? Kind of,
Yeah.
But they were in it a lot, Rob. We said in the studio, we said this is a 3-horse race.
Yeah.
And it was for a long period of time. So this team was very good. But you're right. Nobody thought that well, this guy coming in, they're going to win it because of various factors.
Yeah.
Back to your kind of question. I think what you're sort of asking is differences, or what he's done to.
Yeah, what do you see? What do you feel about this team that's made a biggest difference?
Well, I think it's the same stuff, Rob, that we've talked about throughout the season.
Yeah.
I think the speed of the football is different now. It's not heavy metal football. It's not, the big personality manager. It's not pumping his chest and fist pumping to the cop. He was confident enough, self-confident enough to basically say to himself, "I've got this. I've got it. Yeah. I think I know what the team needs from watching last year." And they were very, very a little bit gung-ho. I think we can agree that at certain times. Everybody rushed forward. They conceded quite a few goals last year. He's definitely addressed that. Football is a little more patient and it's a little slower. And the fans at the start, I think, was it Stephen Warnock talking on the pre-game show about that it was like, well, this is kind of different.
To get used to him
and they had to adjust to the. I think I agree with that comment.
Point, it
was a good point that they had to say, "Oh, he is different, and the football's different. It's a little slower. It's a little more patient. It's a little more attack with more insurance. It's a little bit more attack more safely than what we've seen before." I think that's there's a couple of key personnel situations. The Ryan Gravenberch, even though he doesn't seem like a spectacular kind of important part of the team, it is with his position and what he does. That midfield's kind of fluidity has been a big part of it, almost the last part of this team to mature into what he really, really wanted. And even in this game today, Rob, I'm still fascinated by that midfield. I'm fascinated by the midfield. They have such a unique understanding. You can never, very rarely, Rob, when Liverpool are on the ball, could you say, well, there's the midfield shape. There's a 3,
fluid,
there's a 2, and then the 1. It's really, really fluid. So I think that would be my kind of differences. Just the good start, of course, helps, and then everybody realizes, oh, hang on a minute, this guy might be the real deal, and then it builds from there.
Interesting, Rob, you say that. I've got to give you the Gravenberch stats. You've probably picked up, and I know it got picked up a bit more this morning, but I read it midweek and was like, I had to go look again. It's his 5th title, Rob. He's 22 years of age. He won 3 titles at Ajax. He won 1 title at Bayern, and he's now won a title. He's 22 years of age. He's won 5 titles. I mean, some going. You know, it's Phil Foden kind of going. I just want to go back to Arne Slot, and we'll move on the conversation a little bit more about the game and maybe looking ahead. I just want your thoughts on. Listen, we were both fortunate enough to be in football from an early age and played had a decent career, played over 500 games each at certain levels, and I've had different managers and coaches. And Arne Slot, Rob, comes across a lovely man, like you say, different nature, maybe a bit softer than Jurgen Klopp, comes in a different way. I just wanted to get your feelings and if it was similar to mine, that there'll be another side to Arne Slot that I think the players either know of or have seen. And maybe we saw a touch of it come out at Everton when he apologised after and he'd had to go at the referee and whatever. But I just don't think at this level of professional sport you can be really the nicest guy in the world all the time.
No, I do agree. I mean, all the great managers that we know of, there's no question that there's an important tough side, isn't there? An angry side, a scary side. We all know
that's what makes them the boss, doesn't it? That's what makes it different when they walk in a room and when training and when things are going on. It's something about them, Rob, that you kind of fear, respect. It's a mix of all those things.
Yeah, we very rarely through our position, we very rarely, he's very guarded on that. You might get the odd little comment in an interview or the odd comment from a player or somebody really closely connected that just reminds us and gives us that little snippet. That's what we're looking for. We're like, we're interested in that. We almost want that to be true because we feel like that's an important part of a successful manager, because there's been so many that definitely, you just can't be a soft touch in any way, can you, to be a manager of Liverpool and to win a title. So it has to be there. Of course, it's got to be done in a respectful way that doesn't lose the players. And whether you kind of think that Jurgen Klopp wasn't losing the players, but I know exactly what you mean. They looked a bit of an awkward atmosphere between 2 or 3 and the manager when Klopp was coming towards the end. And when there's a fresh person come in, he's still going to have that tough aggressive streak, but he's got more patience. He's been around the squad a lot less. I mean, maybe Klopp just gets, over a period of time, you get fed up with certain situations and then you snap a little bit more than you might otherwise have done. So, I think that's a good point, Rob. I think I would absolutely almost 100% guarantee that he has got that.
Yeah.
It's just the respect that he delivers that with modern day younger footballers that maybe made a little bit more arm around the shoulder. But the scenes at the end and the congratulations and the cuddles and the dances and all that, and it's obviously a very special relationship. And also like the first season, this is crazy, Rob, isn't it? The first season in English football with this team, and it's an outstanding number. They've got an outstanding number of points. They're gonna,
they could get 92, couldn't they? If they went out
more than last year. Then
games.
Yeah. Well, so this isn't, and in terms of the title, Rob, about others and challenges, and some of the other clubs you expect to be there have had, for different reasons, haven't had their best seasons, but Liverpool have. Yeah. And Liverpool would have won it last year, probably on the points that they're probably going to get. So it shouldn't be undermined that this hasn't been a strong Premier League season. Yeah. It's that they've been champion performers. Yeah. And often we get another club that's champion performers right to the end. And we get, the last year went down to the last day, didn't it, with Arsenal, Manchester City? Yeah. So Liverpool would have been in it. They might have won it. So they're a champion team. Sadly, for neutrals, there hasn't been a champion contender this year, which is why Liverpool have won it by so many points. And the future looks very bright, given the squad, given the funds going to be available, and given the best players extended their contracts.
Well, what's great from our point of view, mate, is we've got another 4 weeks of Liverpool, so we can maybe touch on different areas and a couple of things. We'll maybe get to the Trent conversation. That's going to be obviously focused on now. They've won the title, and he's got 4 games maybe left in his Liverpool career.
It did start, Rob. I was pleased that he started just before on Trent. Pleased that he started, because there was a little bit of talk of maybe he shouldn't. I'm not really. I think they both deserved that opportunity to play today and be part of that. And I'm pleased he started it. And again, it means a great deal to him as well. Been at the club since he was 6 years old. Is it 20 years at the club? So that's, I think the Trent watch is the next thing for the next few weeks, mate, to see how his body language is, if he plays in the team. Well, he
said today apparently he wasn't going to make any statement, because we asked for him at the desk, and apparently he put out through the press, wasn't making any statement today. It was about celebrating thing. He said, in due course, I'll speak to the media. So we'll see what happens, Rob. So we'll have time to eulogise about Liverpool.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe on the NBC Sports YouTube channel for more content like this.